Good day, everyone. Today I'll be bringing you a persuasive speech about play with purpose, why schools must adopt play-based learning. I'm a kindergarten teacher first and foremost, and I have a little experience in the subject. So I want you to imagine walking into a kindergarten classroom where children are actually excited to learn, not stressed, not silently filling out worksheets, but actively building stories with blocks, experimenting with colors at the art table, or creating real-world math problems in a dramatic play center. These are the moments when learning becomes meaningful, and research proves that they matter, because for me, they truly do. My name is Ebony McIntosh, and as an early childhood educator who has spent years working hands-on with young children, I have seen firsthand how play transforms a child's ability to learn. At the same time, I've also watched how quickly joy and creativity disappear when classrooms shift toward test prep, and worksheets. They become bland and blasé. And today, I want to talk to you about one classroom change that can dramatically improve children's academic and emotional development. But before we can fix this issue, we need to understand the real problem happening in our early childhood classrooms right now. The problem is that our young children are being pushed into serious academic instruction way too early, and it's at the expense of meaningful, necessary play. Schools across the country are cutting playtime to make room for tests, assessments, and rigid academic routines. And even though it may sound productive, the research says otherwise. And from my experience, I also understand this. For example, according to a study published in the Journal of Applied Developmental Psychology, games and playful learning strengthen vocabulary, early math skills, creativity, and problem solving. I'm referring to research by Hassinger Dawes and her colleagues from 2017, who found that play is not extra, is actually foundational. Another study by Pyle and Daniels in 2017 found that when children don't have opportunities to play, their stress levels increase and their long-term academic performance actually declines. So when schools push academics earlier and earlier, they're unintentionally hurting the very skill that we want children to develop. As educators like myself, we can feel this shift happening. Children get more frustrated, they give up more quickly, they doubt themselves, and that is not how learning should feel. Thankfully, this problem has a clear research-backed solution. The solution is that schools must adopt intentional, structured, play-based learning as a primary teaching method in early childhood classrooms. This doesn't mean letting kids just play. Of course not. We're not babysitters. But it does mean that teachers can create purposeful learning centers like literacy play centers, math with open-ended questions, or shall I say math exploration tables, dramatic play areas, and science inquiry stations, where every activity connects to academic standards. Teachers guide students with open-ended questions, modeling, and gentle scaffolding. And when this happens, academic achievement actually increases. In fact, Fisher, Fry, and Pompeian published findings in 2012 showing that classrooms using guided play significantly outperform traditional lecture-style classrooms in reading, language development, and cognitive flexibility. So when I say play helps with children learn, I'm not just speaking from intuition, I'm speaking from experience, and I'm speaking from evidence. And as someone who works with young learners every single day, I see it on a regular basis. When children engage in play-based activities, they are more focused, they talk more, they solve problems together, and they're proud of their work. This is exactly what developmentally appropriate practice looks like. So let's take a moment to imagine the kind of classroom we could create if schools embrace this approach. Visualize this. Picture a classroom where children build sentences with magnetic letters in a literacy center, where small groups solve math puzzles together at a hands-on station, where students explore science by planting seeds or experimenting with water and sand, where confidence grows naturally through experiences, not pressure. Instead of frustration and burnout, we see curiosity, teamwork, focus, creativity, and problem solving. And most importantly, we see children who love learning, not children who fear it. Not children who don't want to wake up in the morning because, it's another school day. So how do we make this happen? Here's what you can do starting today. The action plan is, let's review what we've learned. Play-based learning boosts academic growth, strengthens social-emotional development, and creates classrooms full of joy and purpose. Researchers from Hassinger Dawes, Piles and Daniel, Fisher and Fry all support these shifts. Now here's what I'm asking you to do. Advocate more for play-based learning in your children's schools and classrooms. Support teachers who use developmentally appropriate play-based activities instead of relying on worksheets. Encourage schools to reduce unnecessary testing and create more time for hands-on exploration. Also, join the conversations at PTA meetings, board meetings, or teacher conferences to speak up for what children truly need. And here's the truth. If we want kids to love learning and actually succeed, then we must stop treating play as a distraction and start treating it as a foundation of early education. We have to start advocating for our kids in a way that makes them feel safe, seen, and heard. And if we want children to love learning, like I said before, and actually succeed, we need to stop treating play as a distraction and start treating it as a foundation for early education. Play is not the opposite of learning, you guys. Play is learning. And when we embrace that truth, our children and our schools can finally thrive. Thank you for listening to my speech today, and I hope that this persuades you to think a little deeper into yourselves and your early childhood days about the times where you played with friends and learned so much, or the times where teachers sat down and played games with you and it made you feel welcomed and made the experience worth having. Our kids need this in their lives. And again, play is not the opposite of learning.